Hi, readers. Lauren Schultz here, romantic suspense writer and author of the last Consort series. We have it in my hand. We've been reading chapter 1 through 4, and today we'll go ahead and get into chapter 5. So, what are you drinking? That's the question. I have a cup of coffee, which I'm enjoying. I have foamed milk in mine, and it's delicious, of course. So I hope that you have something that is delicious to go along with our read today. So let's go ahead and get started with chapter 5. Here we go, chapter 5. It's a vacant lot, Frank. It doesn't take much to figure the possibilities. Yeah, but is this going to cost more to do? Don't worry about the cost. Do you want a part of this or not? Your bullshit shows reluctance. Rochelle, you of all people know I'm game. She didn't give him a chance to finish. So go, look. The realtor's been pestering me about losing it to another buyer. Some big chain restaurant wants to invest in the land. No rookies burgers, he joked. I've been working on this for years. That lot is a godsend. Don't screw this up for me. What about the warehouse on Ford? We want to build from the ground up. It's too far anyway. Don't you think I thought all this through? Rochelle fumbled with the phone as she flipped through a stack of papers from an ancient cardboard box sitting on her desk. Years had vanished in memory since her eyes met its contents. She couldn't recall what she was looking for or even its color. It was like seeing a friend from elementary schools later, years later, after they'd married, had kids, and had a sex change. The wuss on the other end of the conversation didn't assist her concentration. Why had she made the decision to allow him to stay? It was her baby in the first place. Why did she need his consultation or approval? He'd made a stupid mistake. She knew it by experience, not the silly notion of psychic intuition. The agent is willing to get us a deal on the lot if we go all cash, close in 30 days, and pay for the inspectors. Fine, fine. Go now. We need to be in escrow next week. He didn't like taking orders from an old bat. That was his problem. Silence followed her command. She could visualize his angled brow as he contemplated her words. Talk to you later, Rochelle, he finally answered. Rochelle fingered through the papers and envelopes again, remembering what it looks like, and hung up the phone. It rang immediately after reaching its cradle. What, Frank? Whatever happened to hello? The voice snaked into her catalog of people she hated speaking to, hated thinking of, she hated knowing existed. She preferred speaking to Frank, not the creature on the other end. What do you want? To play a game. He laughed his hellbound chuckle. He triggered an undesirable part of her. I love guessing games. So, Rochelle, guess who I found? I don't want to play. Yes, you do. Lots of folks want to play this round. You, of all people, want to play this game. Rochelle slowly sat down at the desk her husband once sat at, the desk that housed his ideas, his obsessions. With the cold, deadened reality of lifeless wood against her hand and the receiver connecting her to an inescapable reality, she worried. It struck her as surprising for that moment. For years, she'd known that her deeds were soured by greed and obsession by James. She'd never examined the true cost, but the voice, his voice, commanded her to see what she had caused, what she was causing. It was too late for her. There was no turning back. No normalcy could be attained by her life. It was a far fetched idea lost in her faults and her decisions. Who did you find? First, I want a prize. Fine, a month supply. Come on, Shelley. This is bigger than a month. I found a wad of cash, not a buck. I can't give you more than don't fucking lie to me. That's not fair. Every time she heard his voice, she felt a pain from an ulcer she knew she didn't have. Fine, 3 months. No more. I suppose that'll do. She could hear him tapping on something hard in the background in his silence. I found your husband's tag along. My big brother. I don't think he plays anything but hide, no seek. He's not in the game anymore. Think you should know he was talking to one of your girls. Taken aback by the news, Rochelle sank back into her chair as if suddenly pushed by an invisible force. She watched his interactions with her husband for years, the scared, obedient dog that lashed out to anyone, not its owner, until he finally broke and turned on James. She'd contemplated what he'd be like had she the opportunity to control him. Did anyone else know his whereabouts? He was still valuable to James, yet he was a threat to her, especially if he was mishandled and if he spoke with one of the girls. She was feeling the latter concern most. Giving herself a temporary facelift, she wrinkled the skin on her forehead with her fingers, blinding her words from her lips. Why so silent? Thought you could stay in control? Pick up your meds in the train station. Rochelle hung up the phone with force and yanked the cord from the router. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. How in the world had Patricia met him? How did she find him? Why at that moment? Rochelle returned to the box and removed the aged manila envelope that contained vital information. When she found that someone was playing games with her. What the hell? She fumbled through the tarnished papers on the desk, report cards. There were old report cards of Christine and Patricia's school years in the box instead of what she knew was supposed to be there. Her ship was about to sail without her, and if it did, she didn't care she had to blame, even if it meant teaching Patricia who was boss. Then again, didn't mean that at all. Section break. I swear, if she wasn't my mother, she'd be my biggest enemy, Patricia fussed over the phone. What happened? She just called, accusing me of stealing some old envelope. You looked at me like I was wrong to even think about her. You know damn well something is up for her to be calling me and cursing me out over some damn envelope I have no idea about. Christine's stomach dropped. She'd found out. After all the years, he came back and slapped her in the face with vengeance. She was lost for words, too afraid to admit anything to Patricia. She pretended to listen, responding to her angry outburst with a simple "uh-huh," or "really," or I know. For years, Patricia was almost certain that her mother wasn't honest with them about much of anything, having no concrete proof. It was all an assumption. Her having had the advantage of meeting with the hero of that evening only confirmed her belief that burned a giant hole in her relationship with her mother. The thing about her sister was she didn't care. Patricia never cared about what bridges she'd burned if she had an understanding that the person who was out to share nothing but lies and treachery. For a moment, she recalled the time the two of them snuck into her parents' bedroom, played dress up. It was before any suspicions were born. She had slipped on an old slip, and Patricia wore a hat and a heavy gold and ruby ring that she showed off in a mirror, then to Christine. There was an old pair of white heels, as though as she thought about them with her sister's words in her ear, they were some of the ugliest things she could have imagined. But they were her mother's, their heroine. She paraded about the room in the heels in her mother's shoes, wanting to be just like her. But things had become so very different. What hurt Christine more than a stab to the chest or to the eye was the fact that she had known about the missing envelope, and she'd been the very person to remove it from its original place. If she told Patricia what she knew and what she had been doing, she'd be in her mother's shoes. Patricia was her sister, her confidant, her backbone for much of her life. Christine didn't want to wear her mother's shoes. Not anymore. There was only one person she could share the information with. There's only one person who everyone wanted. It was about time she did something. End of chapter. Now let's have a quick preview of chapter 6. It was dark and cold, even though the clock read 9:15 a.m. A storm waited in the distance. The heavy clouds were impregnated with rain from the Arctic, carried all the way to the sunny California coast, throwing all the natives into thick coats and scarves. He smiled and took a breath, absorbing the fresh air as if some miraculous force had blown all the shit out of the air to another place where it would cause an orange alert for air quality. He took a drag from a joint, savored it for a moment, and watched as the smoke escaped into the air. Overlooking the small alley, he leaned into the fire escape, the cool metal resting against his thin shirt. He didn't feel the cold. He took another drag, grateful to the wonders of the dried plant. Beginning to feel the temporary euphoric state that his fire escapes provided, he laughed out loud, strong and carefree, a bold fuck you to the adjacent neighbors. Then he heard the faint sound of a knock on the door, conveniently interrupting his disturbance to all those stupid enough to accept a color-coded system like a bunch of kindergartners on a rug. Derek extinguished his joint with care and placed it on a small groove on his window. He delayed himself a little, hoping that whoever it was outside his apartment door would get a clue and leave. The knocking continued at a rhythmic pace. He could count to two after every knock. 1, 2, knock, knock. 1, 2, knock, knock. He counted again as he stepped into a dresser and caught himself as it came to a wobble. It was probably one of those asses he shouldn't have talked to, shouldn't have made promises to. Anyone who thought they could fuck around with him, especially on his own turf, should have known better. He'd have whatever it was they were asking for coming right at him at the door. He lit a cigarette and slipped his Glock out of the mouth of the dresser he'd just disrupted from slumber and headed for the door. Who is it? Derek, open up. Who's asking? Evans sent me. Evans? How the hell? He didn't need to complete the sentence. It was one of those moments where everything he could have imagined suddenly came to a halt, the smell of the burning rubber irritating his nose. Had the bitch of a wife of Evans finally screwed him? Run? Or should he have remained and opened the door and come to understand what was happening? He had escaped that life, that existence so many years before. Derek acknowledged that they were the only ones who knew the answer to his malfunctioning body that caused him difficulties at the most inconvenient of times. What if they wanted a deal? What if the deal was his death? Hell no. He'd gone through too much shit to be squashed by the very group he swore to get back at. He readied his weapon and swung open the door. Don't move. Say what you got to say right there. Totally unmoved by his welcome, the man calmly spoke. This is a matter of privacy. I'd prefer it if we spoke inside. You must be fucking crazy. You have neighbors who have no business hearing our discussion. Our discussion's over then. What good do you think will come of you aiming that gun at my face? I'll give you another hole, Derek said, unwavering. Derek, I have a proposition. I'm here to merely deliver a message, offer you a deal. If I had wanted you dead, Satan would be showing your quarters right now. All the years had taught him survival skills and knowledge unattainable by those who can hold a whole conversation on Schiller or the works of Titan. He could give a damn about dead words and paintings that cost college educations. He was too busy surviving, escaping, steadying his hands for the inevitable instead of the probable. Evans was something he didn't need. He was something he never needed. Break. Chapter 6 actually continues. So, I hope you enjoyed the reading today. And if you enjoyed book 1, this will continue. This will actually conclude reading for book 1 with Lauren. And what we'll do is, again, if you're interested in reading along, please purchase the book, and you can send me your thoughts and your reviews on the book to my email directly or to my website, or you can also do so on Amazon directly. I thank you so much for being here, and leave your comments here. You can follow me here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, and I also have a newsletter. So if you'd like to participate in my newsletter, by all means, visit my website, which is laurenschultzauthor.com. And you can follow me there. And if you do, we have great information for you, such as some my book reviews and additional information about upcoming releases. And every month, I participate in a good number of really good free book promotion. So go ahead and participate in that. And I'd love to see you there if you have an interest in it. And again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy your the rest of whatever you're drinking. And let's be in touch, right? So let me know, and I'm here to get your feedback. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to read, and take care, everybody.